What Mercedes F1 just did is huge for Singapore Grand Prix. As you all know, the Singapore Grand Prix is just around the corner and everyone is excited to have F1 back. But Toto Wolff actually teased exciting Mercedes F1 update. Now after a break of a couple of weeks, another Grand Prix is around the corner. As the weekend nears, everyone is gearing up for Singapore Grand Prix, known to be one of the toughest circuits. But this grueling track with 23 corners is also the most favorable for Mercedes and Ferrari engines. So far, Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton has failed to win a single Grand Prix this season, a first since his F1 debut, but the Mercedes team principal is cautiously optimistic about their chances. "We took advantage of the unexpected break at the factory to prepare for the season finale," said Toto Wolff. "We will see where the hard work in recent weeks will take us." However, Toto Wolff did state that while Marina Bay is suitable for the W13 engine on paper, there could be some issues. "Some aspects of the circuit should suit our car better than other recent circuits, but other aspects such as a bumpy asphalt could prove challenging. We all know for sure when we hit the track on Friday. Only one can hope that we can see Lewis Hamilton score his first win in this season this Saturday." Now I think it is honestly interesting to see because Christian Horner is actually nervous about Mercedes in Singapore as well. While Mercedes is gearing up for the maiden win this season, Red Bull's team principal is not so sure about their chances in Singapore Grand Prix. Max Verstappen has won the last 5 Grand Prix and there are only 6 remaining. When asked if Max Verstappen will win all of them, Christian Horner said that's a massive ask. There's some huge variance of circuits. Singapore compared to Monza, it's got the most corners on the calendar, it's bumpy, it's a street track, so it's a much different challenge. Meanwhile, Horner is very much aware of Mercedes' advantage on the Marina Bay track. Mercedes, as they had in Hungary on this type of venue, they've got a quick car, Horner said. So one would have to think probably Singapore, they're going to be quick there as well. So I think this is really important, and Andrew Chauvelin also had this to say, where he said they are looking to make some huge updates for the Singapore Grand Prix because this is their best chance of winning. "We think that the side pods and everything about this car can be revamped in order to really perform well at the Singapore Grand Prix and get Lewis Hamilton and also George Russell hopefully a double podium." So Andrew Chauvelin had a lot to say about that, and I think it is fantastic to see what was going on there. I think it is going to be smart that the Singapore Grand Prix is going to play really huge to their advantage, and I love to see Mercedes actually capitalize on that. I think with the Singapore Grand Prix, what makes it so interesting is obviously a lot of the corners. You know, Red Bull and Ferrari really do, I guess, flourish in straights. So straights is usually where you see them overtake a lot of the great cars. However, I feel like in the Singapore Grand Prix, they don't have that luxury. It really does come down more to the driver than the car in this race, you know, really entering and exiting, you know, corners correctly. So I think this is where Lewis Hamilton can really show his strides. Now, George Russell is confident that his Mercedes Formula 1 team will have a more complete car that this is competitive at all kinds of tracks in 2023. So Mercedes has struggled all season with the W13, notably with porpoising and ride issues, and the car has only really shone at high downforce venues. Russell says that the team have chosen a specific philosophy for the W14 and has clear targets that it will try to meet. "I'm confident that the direction we need to take is the correct one," he said. "We have a philosophy that we're going to be trying to adopt in our development, and I'm very confident that it is the correct one. But equally, it does mean that we can necessarily achieve it. We have a target, and that is a massive positive in itself. As I said, we had a clear target we're trying to chase. Now we can achieve that. I have every confidence that we can. We obviously don't know how much the other rivals are going to improve over this winter, but I definitely have confidence that we will have a more complete car across the circuit ranges in 2023. Russell insisted that his confidence is inspired by the numbers that Mercedes is working with. Intriguingly, he also noted that the team really got an understanding on the W13's issue over the run of races from Spa to Zandvoort to Monza. It's data driven, to be honest. We've done a lot of analysis on the races we've been competitive in and the races we've been slow, and trying to understand why was that. And I think we've managed to get quite a grasp onto that and understand why at certain circuits we were so much more competitive than others. We've honestly managed to learn that over the course of these races, and I think that's a triple header after the summer break was quite telling for us, with our performance swings between the low downforce and the high downforce circuits. So I think it is going to be interesting to see say, as you all know, I think Mercedes for the second half of the season have done a fantastic job. I really do think where they have suffered is definitely with what has been going on when it comes to the porpoising early on in the season. So that may not be really in their hands when it comes to what is to come, but I do think it is going to help them out really in the long term, which is going to be fantastic to see. Now, Mercedes bogey F1 track will be a test of its optimism. Singapore is something of a bogey track for Mercedes during Formula One's V6 turbo hybrid era, but expectations are in that it's the most difficult of seasons. Marina Bay will prove to be one of its better circuits. The best and the worst of the Mercedes W13 has been apparent over the last 4 races. Spa and Monza were the weakest tracks for the season in terms of the single lap pace deficit, while at Zandvoort and Hungary, the Mercedes was far more competitive. When describing Singapore's Marina Bay as a bogey track, it's important to stress all is relative. Mercedes has won 4 of the last 6 races there, although one of those wins, Lewis Hamilton in 2017, was only facilitated by the start accident that eliminated the Ferraris and Max Verstappen Red Bull, while in the 2016 Nico Rosberg only narrowly held off Red Bull's Daniel Ricciardo. This is because the conditions and layout of the track make it something of an outlier, meaning that there have always been times when the Mercedes hasn't been at its best, given the package was always conceived to perform well across a wide range of tracks rather than being at its best at an atypical track such as Marina Bay. Team principal Toto Wolff said Mercedes' target remains winning a race this year, but while doing so in Singapore remains a long shot given the dominance of Red Bull, he is cautiously optimistic. The track layout should suit our car, the bumps not, said Wolff. On the simultaneous, it should say that by 4 better tracks, I'm trying to stay on the careful side with any predictions for Singapore. While Mercedes have been confused at times by the performance of its car this year, the team is adamant that now has a good grasp of where the W13 is strong and weak. But within that, there is an admission of what Wolff calls the mood swings of the car have caused some confusion. Singapore's lack of high-speed corners where porpoising and bottoming out can be a problem thanks to the downforce generated is a positive for Mercedes. However, Wolff is right to be cautious about the bumpy track, which would force Mercedes to run at a slightly higher ride than hoped. But technical director Mike Elliott shared Wolff's optimism while acknowledging the challenge posed by the bumps. When you look back at the learning we have gathered over the season, we expect that Singapore will be a bit more like we've seen in Budapest and Zandvoort, said Elliott. It's a bumpy circuit, which is going to provide its challenges, but in terms of the nature of the corners, we think it could be better for our car. So hopefully we will have a good result there. As Hamilton has pointed out, a pace for Red Bull RB18 is in the hands of Verstappen is such that it is almost unbeatable at present. But as Zandvoort and the Hungarian showed, on its stronger tracks Mercedes can be in a position where an unusual strategy or some good fortune could allow it to at least give Red Bull something to think about. And based on recent form, Ferrari could eminently be beatable, and this is particularly important because Mercedes could overhaul it in the battle for second in a Constructors' Championship, as the deficit is down to 35 points. George Russell, who's consistently has put him in contention for second in the World Championship, given he's just 16 points behind Charles Leclerc, was also optimistic for Singapore. So I think it is really honestly fantastic to see what is going on, and I think the Singapore Grand Prix is going to be an exciting one to watch. So let me know down in the comments who you think is going to win the Singapore Grand Prix. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Peace.